Howdy, Humanities 2, Shasta College. This is the end. 6 weeks went by pretty fast. I know you're all handing in your finals. It's going to take me a week to grade everything, so have patience on those final grades. I'll get them out as soon as I can. I've finished all the essays except for the last one, based on Citizen Kane. Haven't read your journals or haven't read the quizzes yet. I got a lot of reading to do. That's what I do at night. Anyway, I'll keep this brief today because, well, we're at the end of it. This is the end of this course. Of course, we haven't even scratched the surface of humanities. We only scratched a small part. I hope you got something out of the class. I hope it opened a world that maybe you weren't aware of, or if you were, now you're more aware of it. Each generation brings its own story, its own voice. The textbook is full of the old stories. The new editions will be full of new stories. Every generation has its place in the history of humanities, the arts and humanities, because there's going to be new painters, new writers, new musicians, filmmakers, dancers, poets. Each generation holds up a mirror. Your world looks different than 10 years ago. And in 10 years from now, this world is going to look different. Hopefully less fires, not as much smoke. Are you going to hold up the mirror? Or are you just going to wait for someone to hold it up for you? I'd like to challenge the class, even though this is a survey class of arts and the humanities for the last 400 or 500 years. But I also believe in the creative process, and I hope you might be endeavoring to do something creative in your life. That could be anything. It doesn't have to be in the arts. It could be in the medicine arts, or the legal arts, or law enforcement arts, or military art. But whatever you do, bring the perspective of the world we're living in with you. Don't live in the past. No need living in the future, because the future is here right now. With the technology we have, the future changes. Our present changes so fast. We're in the future each moment we take a breath. Don't wait for someone else to hold up a mirror for you. You all have a voice. Believe it or not, you do. So let's hear that voice. Ring it out. Shout it out. Scream against the dying of the light, as Dylan Thomas so brilliantly wrote in his poems. Why be a follower when you could be a leader? Don't wait for someone to hold up the mirror. You hold it up. And those leaders are the ones we've been studying in this class. From Mozart to Beethoven to Shakespeare to the artists we've talked about, Vermeer and Rembrandt and Van Gogh. I know we didn't get to all the artists I want to do, but it's only a 6-week course. Picasso, Andy Warhol. And in their day, they were ridiculed. Some of them. Van Gogh is a great example of someone who was never understood in his lifetime. He had to die from his own gunshot before people stopped, looked, and listened and saw what they had missed when he was alive. So many artists throughout the history of our humanities have taken their own lives, become drug addicts, alcoholics, Hemingway killed himself. F. Scott Fitzgerald, the writer, drunk himself to death. Faulkner, who I couldn't cover all the writers, drunk himself to death. Kurt Cobain blew his head off. Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix. These were major icons of my generation. All died at 27, by the way. 27. Wow. They were just too sensitive for the world. And they were fairly successful. Wasn't enough. That just goes to prove that success, money, fame is not enough to keep you alive. There's something relatively missing when somebody like Janis Joplin has to drug herself into oblivion every night. And she was recognized as a genius vocalist. Same thing with Amy Winehouse, dead at 27 of alcoholism. You know how much booze you have to drink to die that early? What pain was she suppressing? The artists that we've covered in this class, they lived in heroic lives. They put their lives on the line. They held up the mirror. Some people loved what they did. Some people didn't understand it. Some people thought it was a waste of time. That's okay. Let those people be the followers and be critics. Because everybody's got a critical opinion. It's easy to judge. You know that. It's not so easy to be the one that's being judged. Because there's this feeling that you need to explain yourself. People aren't getting you. I'm not saying you, I'm saying the collective you. So we've gone through really a thumbnail sketch of humanity's 400 or 500 years. Can you imagine if Van Gogh would have lived? If John Lennon wasn't murdered? If Jim Morrison didn't die in the bathtub? If Kurt Cobain didn't take his own life? Can you imagine if they would have continued to put out work and to hold up the mirror for us? It was cut short for them. Being a leader, somebody holding up the mirror takes a toll. That's why alcoholism, that's why drug addiction. When they ask so many of these artists why, they would say, you don't know what it's like. We'll never know what John Lennon was like. We'll never know what Kurt Cobain was like. But it wasn't that easy to be rich and famous and be labeled a genius. There's a toll to be taken on the human soul. We look at people, I lived in Hollywood for many years trying to write screenplays, and you see so much celebrity worship. You see television stars and movie stars at the Starbucks, at your restaurant, on the street. It gets to the point where they're just like everybody else. People go, oh, there's somebody from a hit TV series. And you walk right by them because essentially they're going to Starbucks to get their latte just like you are. But we look at them with this admiration. Like we want something from them. That's why they're haunted and dogged down by paparazzi and people wanted to be entertained. Just look what's happened. And I don't even know her as an artist. Forgive me. Look at Britney Spears. Even I feel sorry for her. Maybe keep up with that. She's been labeled a goofy mental case, and she's still trying to outlive that. Not just by her friends, but by millions of people. She's the butt of talk show host jokes for years. We like to make fun of people who are on the down spiral. I think it makes us feel like we're better than they are, or at least equal to them. We made fun of Amy Winehouse when she showed up so drunk on stage she couldn't stand up. Have you ever been that drunk? It takes a lot to drink that much. How about this? Go on stage and perform in front of 20,000 people and be that messed up? What was she screaming for? Love and acceptance? Perhaps. And then there's the ones who have died at the hands of others. Go back in the history of time. So many artists, so many leaders, politicians. Lincoln assassinated, Kennedy assassinated, his brother assassinated, Martin Luther King assassinated. Because people who try to make the world better, it terrifies a lot of people. They don't understand it. And so they try to silence their terror with a bullet. Just happened this month in Haiti. They assassinated the president of Haiti because they didn't like the way he was doing things. Who makes that choice? Now there's going to be a big trial. They don't know how many people were involved in this assassination. As if taking someone's life is going to change it into what they want. It never works out that way, folks, ever. After 9/11, we didn't give in to the demands of the people responsible. We fought back. It just makes you fight stronger. Nobody bows down because somebody's been assassinated. Never works out that way, and yet we still have it. And it takes a lot of courage in this very unkind, scary world to stand up and be a leader, be counted, whether it's politicians or you're working at your local parole office or you're working at the local school or you're working for the fire department. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and do something that progresses the culture, not stifles it. I hope you've got something like that out of this class. If we're in class right now, I'd look at you and I'd say, what is it you want? Do you know what you want? Can you say it out loud? Would you say it out loud? Do you have the courage to say what you want? Now, do you have the courage to go get it? I talk to a lot of students and they complain about how many years they have to go to school, how hard this is and how hard that is. Well, kids, that's life. If it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. You want it all handed to you, then what do? You've got to go earn it. And it takes time and it takes a lot of effort. We need to tell our story. We need to make a mark. Like we didn't waste our time here. We're all given one chance, one life. And believe it or not, it goes by really fast. It may seem like it's going slow because maybe you're young, but it speeds up. It isn't easy to make a mark. And it's going to take more than a cute TikTok video or a cute YouTube video of you and your pet cat playing the piano. It's going to take a little bit more than that. That is kind of the degradation of making your mark, as Andy Warhol so brilliantly said, everybody will be famous for 15 minutes. He was kidding, folks. He was supposed to be irony. But boy, just look around. Someone gets 5 million hits on their TikTok and they're at the top of their world. And what have they done to deserve that? How have they earned it? You know, we can accomplish a lot. And it's hard to stay the course. It's hard to keep your beliefs solid and not back down, like Tom Petty's song so aptly puts, I won't back down. There's enough hate in the world. That's all based on fear of the other. There's enough judgments in the world. That's all based on fear of the other. You have nothing to fear. There is no other. It's just we. And I'm not a product of the hippies. Believe me. That's just comes from years of living on the planet with some very difficult people and trying to understand them as much as trying to make them understand me. It's to start something, start without hate, without judgment, without fear. It's not easy to do. We've witnessed in this class the good that man has done in the human world, the historical world. Yes, they may have been difficult people. Mozart was difficult, absolutely. Hemingway could be a bastard, absolutely. My beloved Sam Peckinpah, filmmaker, bastard. But then he made great works of art like The Wild Bunch. And that's his saving grace. Now it's your turn, millennials, Gen Z, whatever else they call people younger or not. I don't know. I don't really care. It's your turn to pay it forward, not just to live on the laurels of what went on before. I teach a film class also, which is not being offered this fall. And we go through the whole history of film from, like I did here a little in this class. That's my passion, movies. From the silence to the current cinema, although I'm not that thrilled with it. Sorry, folks, I'm not. That's how it goes. Prove me wrong. Fast and the Furious, Part 9. Are you serious? Yes, they are. You know why? Because the greed of corporate Hollywood is bulging. They're batting down our intelligence. They're saying the audience is too stupid to learn anything new, so they just want to regurgitate everything, the same thing, over and over and over. Is that what you want? Don't put up with it. Break off. It's the only way that'll stop them. This is everywhere. For many years, I worked as a screenwriter in Hollywood, or try to sell my screenplays, I should say. And every time I had a meeting with somebody, they would say, "What's your movie like? Compare it to some other movie." And God forbid you just should say, "It's original. I haven't seen a movie like this before." They didn't want to hear that. They wanted you to compare it to another movie because that's their comfort zone. That's their safety. They're terrified to move outside of what they think they know. And yet they don't know anything. They think they know. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to be your instructor through this hot summer we've had. Already, school starts again, I think August 15th. I'll be teaching this class, a couple of them, and we'll go in deeper. We'll be able to take our time. This is 17 weeks, and then I could cover so much more in that than I can in 6 weeks. I learned a lot from you guys. Believe it or not, I always learn. I learn because I read your papers, and I learn what's going on out there. What is the zeitgeist of education right now? And I learn it through your essays. So I want to thank you for that. I want to say, read. Can't stress it further. It takes a discipline, like learning an instrument. It takes discipline. Once you start reading, it opens up a whole world, a universe that perhaps you never knew existed. It does exist. There's been thousands of great books written. We've covered a couple in here, and that was it. You don't have to like every book. I've got 10 books on my nightstand right now. I read, and then I get bored, and I read some more on another one. And I'm always shocked that I'm learning something new. Listen to music. I mean deep. I don't mean in the background. I don't mean it's on in the background as you're doing your homework or in your car. I mean, sit and listen to it. Look at the construction of it. Listen to the construction, whether it's classical music or the Beatles or whoever's the new flavor of the day, Katy Perry, whatever. Sit with it. You're not in a hurry. You think you are, but you aren't. Watch important films. Google the most important films in the history of films. It's in Wikipedia. They'll list 100 films. Go watch every one of them. It might take you 10 years. Maybe it'll take you longer. You'll hate a lot of it because it's in black and white or it's silent. But then you might see something that changes everything for you and opens up a whole new universe. Hey, believe it or not, I've been watching movies since I was probably 4 years old, right? I'm a lot past that. I have seen literally thousands of movies. And just recently, I watched 2 brilliant Akira Kurosawa movies. One of them I'd never seen before, one I'd had. And they were astonishing to me. And they're both over 60 years old. Yes, I could still be astonished, which I'm grateful for. Seek out museums. Do you ever go to museums? Do you ever think about it? Well, things have been closed now, and you're lucky now. They're starting to open up. San Francisco's got a couple of great museums. The San Francisco Modern Art Museum, the museum out at Golden Gate Park. Can't think of the name of it right now. I've been in there a lot. I lived in San Francisco, the DeYoung Museum. When I lived in Portland, they have a couple of really nice museums near the college campus on what they call the park blocks. And they have important works in there. You'll go in there and you'll see a Warhol, you'll see a Picasso. Just because it's a small town like Portland doesn't mean they don't have big art. They do. If you ever get a chance to go to Europe, go to museums. Just don't go to nightclubs or fancy restaurants. Go to a museum and sit. Sit in the Madrid Museum and look at Picasso's Guernica. Sit in front of it. And you will discover the power of creativity and the genius of it. You got to sit and watch it. Don't go up to it, take a selfie. That's a waste of time. Go to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam and look at Rembrandt's Night Watch. It's like an epic film. It's like Star Wars. And a human being painted that with a little paintbrush. Go to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam and see his work close up. Get close to the painting, really study it, look at the textures in the paint, and you will understand him and how human he was. And he was searching for transcendence. And that's not easy. That's all we can ask for. Have patience on the grading. I'll see you down the road. The story of our humanities continues. Come along for the ride. Adios.